And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk, Van Andel Arena, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Great Lakes Invitational. Konyndyk came down here with us. Konyndyk and I came down here, check out some Michigan State hockey, and take a look at the Great Lakes Invitational, making its debut in Grand Rapids. Want to see what was going on. Michigan State hockey, the surprise team of college hockey through the first half of the season. No bowl game this year, Paul. Usually we're in a bowl game at this time of year. Michigan State basketball off for 10 days. Good opportunity to come out here, watch Michigan State, see what the crowd looked like, see what the vibe was. Michigan State 4-2 losers to Ferris State tonight. Disappointing for Michigan State. Played well in the second and third period. Outshot them 2-1. But Ferris State was solid, opportunistic, got the victory. Overall, we're just taking a look at the program a little bit and the venue and all those things. I thought it was pretty good. You you live in this area. You talked about the marketing or lack thereof, because it's a tournament that's owned and run by Michigan Tech University. They don't have all the promotional funds and budget that you might expect that you might need for something like this. But first year out, I've got to say, solid start for the GLI in Grand Rapids, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's some things that they could have done better to get stuff out there. I feel like Western Michigan, since we get in Grand Rapids, we get the Kalamazoo Channel 3. There was a lot more on the GLI, covering Western Michigan hockey in that market.
Kalamazoo Television?
Kalamazoo Television talked about the GLI a couple weeks ago is when I first saw it on TV, talking about Western Michigan hockey, talking about them getting ready for the GLI. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I can't remember which, is the first time I saw it on Wood TV 8 in Grand Rapids of any mention of the GLI. Now, I don't watch news religiously, but I just kind of watch it casually, and it's not something I felt like was talked about a great deal. And I told you that a couple of weeks ago. I felt like, there's other events, like when the NCAA hockey tournament was here, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. That was a big deal. And when it's been here, it's been a big deal. And I know obviously there's different marketing type things, but it doesn't hurt, especially this time of year when, you've got TV channels doing panoramas of what happened in 2022 to get out there and just kind of try to sell your hockey program. So this event to local news channels, that doesn't take a lot of money. I mean, it takes a phone call. Mm-hmm. So I think from that standpoint, it was kind of disappointing. The hockey tonight, for Michigan Tech, it was disappointing. They got throttled 8-1. Some people thought they were had a chance to win this thing, and this being their home tournament. Michigan Tech's got some buzz around that program. Western Michigan obviously came out. Michigan State in this game, we knew going into this game, from everything that Adam Nightingale said, that Michigan State surprised college hockey in the first half of the season. Now how are they going to respond? People are looking at Michigan State, that ranking next to their name. The teams that they beat this year, and Ferris State obviously came out here and wanted to make a statement, wanted to beat them. Ferris State's a 500 team, a proud program, good coaching. And they wanted to make a statement for their own at Michigan State's expense, and they did in some ways. I felt like Michigan State did a great job battling back from a 3-0 deficit, but a 3-0 deficit is a 3-0 deficit. And that last goal that Ferris State scored, less than 20 seconds left, or less than 30 seconds before the end of the period, that can't happen. I mean, Michigan State can overcome a 2-0 deficit, but you can't let that team score with 20 seconds left. And and then I just felt like there were times where Ferris was tougher. There's times where Ferris did the dirty work that needed to be done in front of the goal to win this game. And I think this has got to be a good learning experience for Michigan State, because the GLI, I know it means a lot to Coach Nightingale. In your Q&A, you did a good job with that, and he talked about that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much it means to the Michigan State players, and I don't know if Michigan State players expected this game to be as tough as it was. But this is kind of a learning experience for everyone in the program.
I agree with what Bob Daniels said, Ferris State's coach. He says in college hockey there's a lot of parity, and there's not much separation between the best and the medium tiers and so forth. Ferris State's a team that's kind of back up on the upswing. Being 9-8, a little bit above 500 is upswing for them, an uptick for them. That's a team that was in the Frozen Four 5 or 6 years ago. Only won one game during the COVID year for various reasons, but for them, he said it's a big win for their program. Right. And I asked him to expand on that a little bit, and he talked about playing Michigan State, a top number 11 team in the country. GLI, Ferris State's only played in the GLI 3 times. A big deal for Ferris State to come here and play. Was Michigan State prepared? Well, Nightingale told me yesterday that Michigan State now is in the second half of the season is not sneaking up on anybody. And today they got a dose of that, and they know college hockey it's going to be like that every night. There's teams that'll come up and take a good shot at you. Michigan State outshot them 2-1. They were out shooting them 10-1 or whatever when they were down 1-0 and 3-0. Interesting. Daniels was talking about how territorially he conceded that Michigan State was much stronger tonight, but Ferris State was opportunistic. Nobody went as far as to criticize Dylan St. Cyr, Michigan State's goalie. He's had a great year all year. I didn't get a good enough look at those to second guess any of that. But there were some concerns. There might be some rust for Michigan State having not played in 16 days. But so now they have to wake up and come back and try to play Michigan Tech tomorrow. We won't be here for that game. But Michigan State needs to get a win. How important is it? Pairwise rankings, it's always hard to say, how all those things are going to shake out. But this is a Michigan State team, surprisingly, that's going to be in the NCAA tournament hunt. And if they get a win against Michigan Tech's a good team. They're going to win some games in their conference. And in the pairwise rankings, you get credit for every game that they win through the course of the season. So Michigan State, now we have to see, Michigan State in previous years with Danton Cole and a couple times previously, they've had situations where they've had little hot runs here and there, maybe not to this extent, but they've always fizzled out. Now this Michigan State hockey team this year needs to make sure that they're not a Michigan State team that fizzles out. We've seen that happen before, and as they get into the second half of the season, that's what we're going to be watching for.
I think one of the things that I've been impressed with Nightingale is when they've played a poor game or played a game that was somewhat disappointing or they should have won and they didn't play the way they wanted to. I think they bounced back nicely. And they've done a good job. So I think the resilience factor, that speaks highly of your coaching staff, but it also speaks highly of the players on this team. And, you and I talked a little bit ago about, you not knowing, like, some of these transfers coming in, a lot of the people that have had kind of like a revitalization of their careers, how these guys would respond. And it feels to me in watching these guys play that they want to be part of something. They want to be part of something successful. And I feel like Adam Nightingale's done a good job communicating to his guys, this is what you have to do to be successful. So it's not always wins and losses. It's how you respond to certain situations. How Michigan State responded down 3-0 was impressive. Even though Daniels admitted that Michigan State controlled them territorially, I felt like Michigan Tech had the better scoring chances. Ferris State had the better scoring chances in that first half. And I don't know if it's all on Dylan St. Cyr. I think some of it was his passes are a little bit off. They're intercepted, and all of a sudden you've got traffic in front of the goal. And I wonder stylistically if with some of the passes that Michigan State attempts, if there are going to be those opportunities. I also wonder too, like, I felt like in the second period that Michigan State passing was a lot more crisp. It was on target and
noticeably different. And
so you wonder too if that is some of the rust, from being off for so many days. And we said this the other night after Michigan State's basketball game, against Oakland. Okay, this is kind of what you expect in terms of a team that's familiar with you. Now, Bob Daniels is familiar with Michigan State, not this Adam Nightingale coach team, but he has played them last year. This is a big deal for them. They did lose a game they should have won last year, to Michigan State, and they wanted to get revenge for that. But I feel like there was the first period is where the game was lost, kind of, and what hurt them there was, that Ferris State took advantage of their scoring chances. They had some pretty. Pretty much in front of the goal. The face-off one, I don't know. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, they scored. Ferris State scored twice off face-off set pieces. One was at the very end of the first period. That was a costly one to make it 3-0.
What was it? 20 seconds left, 19 seconds left, something like that. So,
and we talked about it at that time. Even though Michigan State came back and beat Ferris State after being down 3-0 last year, that was a huge surprise, the way Michigan State style was. This year, Michigan State more up-tempo. That you had a feeling that they can make a run. And that's one thing that was kind of comforting and entertaining if you're a Michigan State fan. They're down 3-0. They're still in it with Michigan State style of play. You're exactly right about Michigan State and the way they can pass. If you're watching a lot of Michigan State hockey this year, the way they pass coming out of their own zone. I talked to Nightingale about that yesterday because that's a big change for Michigan State this year. And we talked about that in the Q&A. That part was rusty in the first period. Nightingale said after the game, breaking out, they were just not as sharp. They were sharper in the second period. Now Michigan State had 16 days off prior to this game. Ferris State only had 10 days off. They played a 2-game series just 10 days ago. I think that showed as well. And they were very happy to win. They celebrated when they won. Now, as far as the crowd goes today, I thought it was, this place holds 11,000, and they, during the Michigan State game, it was a little less than half full. During the Michigan Tech Western Michigan game, it was right about half or a little bit more than half. Michigan Tech and Western people left. Some of them left to go get dinner or whatever after the first game. So others stayed. But, total attendance, 7,000. I haven't heard officially. Might even go up to 7,500, 8,000. Not really sure. It's quiet here. It's a quiet arena. For some reason, the Michigan Tech Western game was a little bit more boisterous. To begin with, the Michigan State game, when it started, it was very quiet. And where we were, it's interesting that you'd have, kind of a half house here, which is a decent number of people, but you could hear the players calling for the puck and calling each other by name, and the sound of the game I thought was cool. The skates and the sticks on the pucks. I mean, it had a different sound than what I'm used to at a hockey game. I kind of liked it, but it's kind of different with the sound in here.
I don't think this arena plays well with athletic events. I think it's the seats. The seats absorb sound, and you go back to the Grand Valley Michigan State game where I think Grand Valley beat Michigan State here.
Michigan State beat a team from Texas State or something. Remember we were here for that? Remember that one?
I thought it was Grand Valley that played
Maybe
Michigan.
It was Grand Valley.
I thought Grand Valley played here because
it was Grand Valley.
And Grand Valley beat Michigan State or
Grand Valley beat Michigan State at Breslin. When they played here, Michigan State won.
This was close, but it was a close game.
Did they play Houston here too, or not Houston? Arkansas?
They played Georgia here.
Georgia in an exhibition?
Yeah. So, anyways, Tom Izzo was not happy in that game because he likes loud games. He likes fan noise. And the arena seats here absorb noise. And it's great for concerts. It's not so great for sporting events. And you saw that today. Every time I've gone to a Griffins game here, with the exception of maybe when it was in the playoffs, I felt it was very, very kind of watered down and tepid. It's a different type. In those games, I've always felt maybe it's like some of the people that are going to see the game. But in this environment, I didn't feel that way because people are out eating, drinking, and having fun with families and friends, and I just feel it was quiet. So I wonder what I would do if I could do this game, if I was putting it together. I would have these games at 7 o'clock and at 9 o'clock, because then you could have people going and getting lit up.
Staying
for both games, and it would be a loud live environment. I think that would be a good deal. It's you can say, well, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, I don't have a TV contract, so that's the other thing. I think in terms of for this event, I think it would be really helpful to have it on
even 6 and 8 maybe
on TV,
or 6 and 9.
But I think really with the restaurants and the venues and the like the food and alcohol down here, it would be good to have these things played back to back without a break in between. I just think you'd get more. It'd be more like what you and I see in the Champions Classic every year. I mean, obviously that's different because you've got 4 really big fan bases, and hockey's a little bit different. But this could have been a bigger crowd. A lot of those Western Michigan fans just went out and didn't come back. A good chunk of them. So, anyways, I thought it was a pretty good deal. I wish it was on TV because I always remember the GLI. I know for as long as I can remember being on TV. So it just feels like when you don't have that kind of thing, like a college thing televised, it's not the same. It doesn't have the same magnitude. It does have the same magnitude in the pairwise rankings as you were talking about earlier, but in terms of being an event, being the preeminent college hockey tournament, it doesn't have the same panache if it's not on TV, because not everyone can come out and spend $60 on a ticket.
Right. And I heard that there was the TV station. I heard Dave Ellis today on the Stout Show, and he's got a lot of connections up in the Upper Peninsula. And he was saying that I think a TV station out of Marquette had carried the Michigan Tech Northern Michigan series, I think, this year, and they've done that a couple times. And there was some talk about that station carrying it, picking this up, and it was in motion, but it never quite happened. And there's some confidence that next year that they'll pick it up, and then affiliates throughout the state, including in Lansing, an affiliate, and probably one in Grand Rapids too. That's potential to be televised in a local basis.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that, because we know how things are with colleges and licensing and all that stuff, and to have a locals channel pick that up,
that's rare these days,
and get piggybacked off of that. I just don't see that happening. That maybe because it's a UP based team that's running it, that could happen, but to me that seems like unlikely to happen because the bureaucracy and the red tape that comes along with universities and marketing and licensing and all that stuff, that just seems like that seems a little bit too hokey for me.
Mm-hmm. And the 3:30 start on a weekday afternoon is strange. Now, they've done it that way traditionally in Detroit. School is out and people are, maybe not back to work yet, and it's kind of worked. But the first game of the semifinals never used to draw even in Detroit. So, changing that to maybe two games, maybe more of a back-to-back rather than a break in between. They can massage that and work with it, but I think they've got something to work with. There are a lot of people in Grand Rapids, a lot of sports fans, a lot of maggers on the website that were not aware that this was taking place until 48 hours ago, people that live here. Right. So now that if people can start planning on it and know that it's happening every year during this week, I think it's got a chance to grow. Now, you and I, maybe next year we'll be at a bowl site at this time. We won't be able to attend it, but it was interesting to come here and check it out.
Yeah, but if it's not advertised, if it's not, you and I know this from our job every single year. There's basketball tournaments, high school basketball tournaments, or stuff that you'd like to go cover, but you don't know about it to the last minute and you can't do it. And this is like that on a bigger scale. College hockey is not, followed to the extent that if you can't plan for it a month ahead of time or 2 weeks ahead of time or 3 weeks ahead of time, that you're going to get the kind of, you're not going to get the walk-up crowd.
Yeah, the keys are if Western Michigan can remain a strong program, and if Michigan State can become one again. If Michigan State flounders again, that's really going to hurt this tournament. But Michigan State needs to be strong, and the keys are that Kalamazoo crowd coming, and the Michigan State fans showing up, and the sports fans in Grand Rapids knowing about it. There's a lot of people that live around here. They need to know about it. Now, Michigan Tech, they own the tournament. Their budget is limited, so there's not a lot they can spend from a promotional standpoint. Can they go find a title sponsor that can pay for some of the promotions? Now you got a chance to do that in Grand Rapids. You got a chance to do something here, and I'd like to see it happen. I think it's got potential. It's something for Michigan State fans to start planning on doing during the holiday season. I think it'd be a good thing. Anything else, Paul?
No.
All right, Paul Konyndyk, Jim Comparoni have been watching the VCast from Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, SpartanMag.com.